Hi, it's Mark with At My Home, and today we're going to review a product that will help you shut your water off if you detect a leak in your house. And the one product you need for that is the Zooz Titan Water Valve Actuator. And this is the device here that will turn your water valve off if you command it to do so. And you need these little water leak sensors. So this is the water leak excess sensor from Zooz. Now they sent us both of these, and together we'll be able to detect water leaks in the house and automatically shut off the water valve. And I'm going to show you how to set this up and show you an example of it working, because we have our test water leak right here. One of the things they give you in the box is a little card that tells you how to contact them for support. So if you need support, you can either send an email to their email address or call the phone number. So that's really kind of nice to have. All right. The other thing they give you is an instruction sheet, and we're going to follow this instruction sheet because there's some calibration involved in using this valve actuator, and I'm going to follow the directions along as we go. So let's take a look here. Let's first of all, I want to move things to the side a little bit and bring in our little test fixture. So this is a ball valve, and you have to have one of these for this to work. The ones that are the dial, like, they won't work with this. You need to have this ball valve, and basically it's one of those valves that you turn like this, and they turn pretty hard. I don't know if you've ever tried it, but they turn pretty hard. This is the closed position, and we're going to start with the valve in the closed position because that's what they require. All right, so we'll do this one here later. And I think I'll take the box out of your way. And basically, we're going to set this up. So first thing we have to do is put the valve actuator on the valve itself. And what you do is you make sure that this little foot thing here is pointing in this direction with these two clamps here. And you basically just put this on here and clamp it down. Now, if you have what's called a low profile valve, and they talk about that in their directions, they have a little spacer you can put in here to make it work, but we don't need it. So put that off to the side. So let's go ahead and do it again. And so we put it over the nut there. And see, it hits the valve, and then we push it down, and it's spring loaded. And we just tighten these clamps, and that's it. We've now installed, at least mechanically, the valve actuator. Now, keep in mind, you see how the clamps fit here? Well, these feet actually are able to, I don't know if you can tell in the video, but here they're adjustable. So if you have to move it a little way, either way on these two feet here, you'll be able to do that with the clamps. Just to keep in mind, they're really a snug fit, so if they don't quite work right away, you kind of got to give them a little bit of a push. All right, so now we have physically put that on our valve. All right, so what do we want to do next? Well, we also have something which is a water leak detector that comes with a unit. Now, if you're using this indoors, you might have it, let's say in a basement or something, and you want to detect water on the floor. Well, then this is kind of nice to have. If you use it outdoors, like we'll be using it, then you won't use this detector here. But you basically just plug it in. You see there's like a little pigtail where the power cord is. And you plug it in here, which of course, they have like a little thing in the way. Oh, that's cute. Okay, so we got one of our screwdriver kits because inside of this there's a little white thing that's kind of blocking it. I think it's for when we use it outdoors, it's to keep it watertight. So I'm going to take out a little screwdriver here, and we'll just use this one here. And we'll take out the plug. Oh, okay, so as you saw, it was a little bit difficult to get out, but there it is, the little plug to keep it watertight. So I'm going to put this back in this case here. We're done with the screwdrivers for today. All right, so now, after removing the plug, we'll plug in the water sensor, and now it's in there. So now you've got a water sensor, and you can see on here, there's a bunch of metal clips, and basically if they get wet, they'll close the valve. So let's take a look here again, and now we want to plug it in. So they give you a nice setup here for plugging it in. Plug it into our power strip, and then hook the plug in here. And they have a little capture nut here, so that's nicely tight in there. Okay, so the valve is now on the unit there's a blinking green light on the top, or is it green? Green or yellow, I can't tell the difference. But the first thing we have to do before we do anything is we have to calibrate it. So they tell you in the directions, connect the leak detector, then power on the actuator, which we did, but then calibrate. The way you calibrate is you press this button, hold it down until you hear 2 beeps, and they're going to happen really fast. Watch. Now what it's doing is it's calibrating. So it's going to go from the closed position where it's at right now to the open position. Now you can see it takes a little bit of a while, but it's trying to sense where the valve's open position and closed position is, because you don't want it to be over rotating. Then when it's done, it'll leave it in the closed position. And that's it. Now we've installed it, it's operating. I haven't hooked it up to Z-Wave yet because this is a Z-Wave device, but it's all operating right now. So I can press the button at the top once, it'll open it, and then it's opened. Okay, now if I press it another time, it will close it. So you can always do that. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is if you install this outside, you need to lock this button. And what that means is it's electronically locked. So you basically hold the button down 3 times, and then 1, 2, 3. And now the button is locked. See, nothing will happen. Okay. Now I can also unlock it as well using the same command. So hold for 3, then tap 3. That's it. We've unlocked the button. So now it's all set to go. All right. If I press it again, I open the valve. All right. Now, the thing we really care about, of course, is what happens if the sensor detects water. So let's bring our handy wet floor here. We're going to take our sensor probe and we're going to push it on here. Let's see. On the water, what should happen is it should detect the water and close the valve. At least that's the theory. But evidently not. So I don't know why it's not closing it. Try it one more time. Maybe it wasn't in enough. Oh, there it was. It killed him. Ah, there we go. I figured out what the problem was. So you really have to push this in. So I would recommend, if you do use this, to do a test like I did to make sure it really closes, because obviously I didn't have it quite in all the way. Now the valve is closed. I'm protected because of a water leak. And of course it's going to give us this beep. And it's going to keep beeping. I think until these probes are not quite wet anymore. All right, so that is how you set up the unit without using Z-Wave yet. Now the next thing we're going to... I don't know how to kill that. There we go. All right, I figured out how to do it. I had to hold it down for a little bit and stop making the noise. All right, so it's all set up, mechanically hooked up. We know this probe works, but we want to use this with our SmartThings hub. This will actually work with multiple kind of hubs. I've actually tried it out on a HomeSeer hub. It worked just fine. This one we're going to hook up to the SmartThings app. So next step, we're going to go off and install. All right, so I've got my SmartThings app opened up. And I'm going to go to devices, and I've already set up a room that I called outside water line just for the use of this demonstration, but I need to add a device. So I say add device, and then I say scan QR code, and on the device itself here, let me show you, there's a QR code on the unit. There's also one that comes on the box. I can scan either one. I'll scan the one on the unit. And let's see if I can get the line up my camera correctly. Okay, it found it. Okay. So it says get started with your Z-Wave device. So I'll say start. I'm putting the room called outside water line. Hit next. All right, it says it's getting ready to connect. Now all you have to do here is 1, 2, 3. So now it's making a sound where it's trying to do the pairing. It'll find it here. Okay, I think it's found it. It takes about 30 seconds, I think, for it to finish things up in the SmartThings app. Okay, so it's finishing up. And then what it's going to do is it's going to say I found the valve. Now, if I want, I could rename this now, but I'm going to leave it as Zooz valve. We're going to leave that name there, but you can change the name if you want. You say done, and now it's got the valve. And so now if I press the valve, press it here, bring up, it says it's closed, which it is, right? Then I hit the open button. The valve is open, status changes to open. And I can just as easily close it. I'll press it again, and the valve closes. So it's that easy. So I can either do it manually with a button push, or I can use the SmartThings app and open and close the valve. Now, what's nice about this is that because it's part of SmartThings Hub, any other triggers I have with our SmartThings Hub can trigger an automation to close the valve. So the other thing we got from Zooz, remember, was the sensor. And here's the water sensor. It's really small. You know, a lot of times you see them a little larger. They give you what I call a guitar pick. And basically that's so you can open up the case. Is you have to open it up. And then if you get it new, there'll be a little tab to pull out for the battery. But you pull out the battery tab. And we're going to pair this now with SmartThings. So come back over here. And we'll say plus again. Add device. Again, scan the QR code, and this is kind of cool. Inside, there's the QR code, so we just take it, somehow figure out where the scan is. There we go. It's now found it. And it's the same process again in SmartThings, of course. Hit start. We'll put it in the room with the outside water line for now. Hit next. It's preparing, and if you look on this device here, if you can see this or not, there's a little button here, 1, 2, 3, puts this in pairing mode. Let's see, did I do it right? 1, 2, 3. So you see a little blue light blinking after 3 presses of the button. And it's doing the same preparing thing again. And it'll find this little guy here. There you go, it's found it. And we now have the Zooz water leak sensor. So if I say done, it's now there. It says it's dry. If I put let me put the cover back on. If I take this now, let's take a look at this. It says dry. If I put this on here, it should say it's wet. And if you look closely, you see it got an alert from SmartThings, and its sensor says wet. If I take it off, it goes right to dry, informs it it's dry. But that's nice, but I want to turn the valve off, right? So let's first of all put the valve in the open position. So imagine your house is running normal. The valve will be open at that point, and we want to automatically close it if this gets wet. So let's create an automation. We'll open up the Zooz valve, and then we'll say automation. We'll add an automation. So we want to have it that if, and we're going to cancel that, if device status, and we'll look for the Zooz water leaks. So there's the Zooz water leak sensor. We'll press that. And we'll say when the water sensor is wet. All right. And we'll save that away. And then when the Zooz valve, we'll click on that. When we come into this automation, we want it to be closed. So we say valve closed. So we have if water leak sensor is wet, the Zooz valve is closed. So that's it. We've created our automation. And you can name it. We'll just let it go through the normal naming. All right, so we're done. And now, if I put this on the wet, it senses it. We got an alert that moisture was detected with a water leak sensor. and it closes the valve. And as you can see here, it changes status to closed. That's it. It's that simple. Now, the one thing that I do want to do is when you put this on here and you calibrate it, that's great. But if for some reason you take this off and put it back on, even though you have it all set up, you need to recalibrate the next time you put it on there. Every time you put this valve onto the valve, you need to calibrate it. And it's very easy. Just hold this down for 5 beeps. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it'll calibrate the unit. Now remember, when you put this on, you always make sure that the valve is closed when you put this unit on your pipe or on your valve. And again, it's doing the same calibration it did initially when we set this up. Okay, that's it. That's how you set this whole thing up. Now keep in mind that with this device, because it's hooked up to our hub, and remember, I have it hooked up right now to the SmartThings hub, but it works with HomeSeer and several other hubs as well. So once you've got this paired up to it, anything you want to do with your hub, any of the automations you can do. So for example, if you have the Zooz water sensor, the water leak sensor, you can use it as we showed you here to turn it off. But if you have other water leak sensors in your house, those will work too, because if you pair them up in their Z-Wave to your hub, you can create those automations and select those devices, right? So it's really nice and it's really powerful and easy to use, very easy setup. Well, that's the Titan water valve actuator and the Zooz water leak sensor. Thank you for watching our video.